Odell Beckham Jr.'s salary is going to be in Bitcoin. Odell Beckham Jr. has dumped the Cleveland Browns and he's moving to the Los Angeles Rams, where he has requested his salary in Bitcoin. Although it does seem to be like a tie in and an advertisement for the Cash App, it is a step forward towards football players and baseball players, professional sports athletes of all types taking their money in Bitcoin. Josh Sigala, more mainstream Bitcoin adoption or just continuation of a trend?
Oh, for sure. The more and more people accept crypto, Bitcoin, ETH, stable coins, all this stuff. I'm noticing massive waves of it everywhere. It used to be where I'd be like, hey, can I pay you back in Bitcoin? And they'd be like, oh, wouldn't mind cash, like fools. And I'd be like, you sure? Yeah, I'd give the second, like, are you sure? Like, I'm the one losing on this deal. You realize that? Oh, sorry, I'm so loud always. Sorry. I'm 6'8", guys. I can't help it. I've got big lungs. Anyway, now it's like, hey, you want to be paid in crypto? And it's like, oh yeah, damn it. All right, not send my crypto. But the good thing is nowadays you can lock up crypto and borrow against yourself, so you don't even need to sell it, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I definitely, man. Like the more the merrier. Let's go.
If only the Rams had listened to this show, they could have stacked Bitcoin years ago and been able to include to afford better players now. They'd be in a great position. Ben Ark, the footballer takes Bitcoin. Beginning of a trend?
I mean, like Okung followed me. I didn't know who he was because he's like an American footballer. And then he DM'd me. And this was before Bitcoin Miami. And he was like, yo, you in Miami? And I was like, who are you, dude? And I was like, yeah, no, not, I'm not going because of all the COVID restrictions. And then I realized who he was, and I was like, oh my God. But that guy, like some of his tweets, I'm amazed how someone could be so athletically brilliant and then also intellectually brilliant as well. So hopefully, more of them. I suppose while they're training, they've got lots of time to like listen and learn and be educated so if they're informed and if they're, if they know what they're doing with Bitcoin and they understand the value proposition of Bitcoin, then I'm all for it. And I think really Okung pioneered the big athlete accepting Bitcoin as payment.
Justin Newton, your thoughts on footballers and Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense, right? Like if the money that you have is money that you need to spend, tomorrow to feed your family or next week or next month, then maybe putting all of it into Bitcoin isn't the best idea, because days like today happen where, you wake up in the morning and things are way down. And, if you were depending on that to feed someone, it wouldn't be great. But, I think what we've seen in the industry up until now is if you have a longer time horizon, and you're not worried about the money that you need to feed your family tomorrow, but are instead thinking about the wealth that you're going to have 2 years from now, then frequently having that money sitting in Bitcoin rather than having it sit in USD might be the right choice.
In many ways, I think it's so much safer than the traditional financial advisor route that many of these players go through. But in many ways, I'm horrified, and I think it's much less safe. If somebody ran off with Billy Joel's money, imagine what they're going to do to some poor footballer. And again, they could fit it all in one suitcase. They could fit it all in one private key, one piece of paper, one notebook. So I hope for the best, but I always worry just a little bit. If you don't pay attention to things, then things come back and bite you. But I already said that Nader quote. Dan, Eve, your thoughts, even though it's an American footballer, not a soccer player?
I think anyone who's publicly getting their pay in Bitcoin, I think is a really good thing. Hey Theo, on the CoinFest with Ben. Yeah, so I think for anyone getting their salary in Bitcoin, it's a public thing, right? It's showing that people actually have money and they can they can use it as money. I think kind of like what Justin pointed out, that it's better for people that have a lot of money, right? That it doesn't really matter if it drops 20% in a couple of weeks, because it doesn't mean they're not going to be able to pay their mortgage. For someone who's living week to week, it's a lot more of a difficult decision, and there's a lot more risk involved, right? You almost need like a pretty reasonable buffer in order to be able to make that decision. So it's kind of sad in a way that you'll see more of the rich people like dropping their fiat for Bitcoin, but also good as well because it's positive market pressure, right? It's businesses that now have to go out and buy the Bitcoin in order to pay their staff. So ultimately, it's good all round for the Bitcoin ecosystem.
You're right, Dan. It was like when Elon Musk was bragging about never selling any of his Bitcoin. And I was like, yeah, man, but you're crazy rich. You don't have to worry about paying rent and things that normal people have. Like it matters a lot for a normal person if it goes down 30% or 50%. That's a painful thing. Martine Wismayer, your thoughts on the American footballer?
I totally agree with Justin and Dan here. If you have a lot of disposable income, you're either going to buy bonds or stocks and put it in there and have it managed by some money manager or funds manager. Instead, you can just it's better to just own your own private keys and just make sure you stash some away for the future. If you need the money, it's definitely not a good idea to put everything in Bitcoin. But those athletes, they make a lot of money. They're not going to spend it all, or they're going to spend it on silly things. But so it makes sense to save a little bit for the future, because their careers are usually quite short, because they get they at one point they can't play the games anymore because of the health or injuries. So it's good. It's a good decision for the future. If you have got a longer time preference, like 5 years or so, you can live from halving to halving. So definitely recommend it. But as I found out myself, between 2010 and 2015, my only income was in Bitcoin. So that was like a very different story, you pay your coffees in Bitcoin and your pizza in Bitcoin, only to find out that 5 years later, that was like a small car, So it's but as an athlete or basically for anyone, if you put like 5% of your savings portfolio, you put it in Bitcoin, that's very conservative, and it will turn into a nice profit by the time you want to retire. So yeah, totally recommend it.
It's never too late for Taylor Swift to buy Bitcoins or stack sats, as they say now. Maybe she could even buy her original masters back if she had enough cryptocurrency.